Hi, I'm IKEA, and for today's video I want to have an in-depth look into the Chill Out Mask, as it became available again with this summer event, somewhat unexpectedly, as usually these items are only tied to the winter events. It is a good thing that they've added them in again to have them twice a year, as they are interesting items. None of them are really useful, with the Slayer, with the O'Carroll, with the Festive Delivery, and the Chill Out Mask. Out of them, only the Chill Out Mask does have some uses, but it gets used for way too many other things that it shouldn't. And as well, of course, we'll be having, for those that missed it, there is actually a new items under rifles, the cooler. We'll be getting this as part of the events as well. As likely will unlock in the same way as Festive Delivery, where it will come from one of the projects later on in this list of projects. And then we will also have it drop from our friendly hoarder, or as we affectionately call him, the Loot Goblin. But the Chill Out, as often exists, gets used quite wrongly. The Chill Out is the item with 2 mod slots. It is from the Gila set. We'll go and look at it, as a lot of people I see using this either as trying to get a full red version to go crit damage with it, or a full yellow version to either use in skill builds or in short drone builds, or for Eclipse. All of those things are, if you actually think of the opportunity cost of it, quite dumb. And I see, of course, a lot of videos floating around. So I kind of wanted to discuss this. I actually wanted to discuss this last December when it last was available, but I didn't. I got busy with other things and kind of the time passed. But then now, as it is available again, I definitely want to tackle this one now. So yeah, let's jump in. And let's start doing that by first discussing what the Chill Out actually is. Chill Out is a named item, a named mask. It's from the Gila brand set. Because of that as well, it will always come with a blue core, as all Gila pieces do. And then its special thing is that it has a 1 minor attribute instead of 2. And then it has 2 mod slots instead of 1. So basically, it's exchanging one of its minor's attributes for a mod slot. So you don't get more stats out of it, but you can get different stats out of it. Because, of course, we have things that can be here in mod slots where you can't have them on minor attributes, as I'm using here, for instance, with Protection from Elite. And also, towards the end of this video, we'll go actually over a few builds that you can use the Chill Out for, as I have 2 such builds in my build collection, and they are good. They're making good use of the Chill Out. But one other thing as well that you can have with mods is that you can have double stats, because of course you can't have, you can't have 2 crit damage as minor attributes. What you could have here is 3 crit damages by going crit damage minor, and then crit damage mod, and then crit damage mod. It does allow for that. The 2 mod slots can be copies of each other. And then that raises the opportunity to go crit damage on this, which seems like a good idea until you actually, again, think about the opportunity cost. And where it falls apart is that you are always stuck with the Gila brand bonuses. So with the version that we'll be seeing in a second, with Strikers, where people are going Cheska plus this, or even Grupo plus this, I saw, which please don't, at least put the Cheska in. It is a bad choice, because if you're putting Cheska and then this, what you could have instead is Grupo. And Grupo would be crit chance, crit damage, crit damage, crit damage. You would have 3 crit damages, and then one of them would be even a brand bonus, which is 3 higher, and you would have a crit chance. And basically that crit chance faces off against this 5% total armor. Brand bonuses matter, damn it. They matter to me, damn it. And they should matter to you, damn it. Giving up a brand bonus for 5% total armor, which isn't really useful. If there was even something better than that, maybe, you know, I'm not against going for utility. I would even, put a palisade piece in there, get 10% armor and kill, maybe. Well, even a bellstone piece and it gets 1% regen or something. The thing is, Gila is useful for its tree piece, where you get 2% armor regen, as we'll go into builds later. but not for 5% total armor. You're just losing damage, first of all, because a lot of these as well try to act as if it's more damage. It isn't. We'll use here as the stand-in this striker build, but this will be the stand-in for basically all of the red versions. Well, more of a case can be made maybe for something like going with high ends, because I've seen a few high end versions where they try to go with it and try to make up for the lost crit chance, which you would have in that case, with putting in Elmos to gain that crit chance, basically to try to get Elmos going in a high end build. What you could do is literally any other brand, and you could have one more weapon handling rule. But here, the one that I keep seeing pop up over and over again is up on the right, which is trying to put Cheska Chest and then Chill Out Mask together with as an Obliterate variant for strikers. So first up here, yeah, just to show the build picture of it up on the right, let's zoom in a little bit on the calculation side of things. And yeah, this is first the Cheska Grupo variant and then Cheska with Chill Out. And as we discussed earlier, you're losing versus Grupo, you're basically losing that crit chance roll against the total armor roll. And yeah, we just see that result here. it's just a losing damage. Anything you try to do damage-wise with the Chill Out will just come out behind just because of that you're giving up a brand bonus. Now, the case that then gets made in high ends is, okay, but I run out of brand bonuses. You know, I've got a Cheska in there, I've got a Grupo in there, I've got a Fenris in there, Contractors, Fox. I have one slot remaining. What do I put there otherwise then? This could be the filler for that, except no, because even if you run out of every other singular place where you could put something, you could always go with an improvised piece. On the glove, holster, and knee pad, improvised pieces have a mod slot where other pieces don't. This basically can be the brand bonus for there. You can always get 12% crit damage out of this as basically its brand bonus. So, and in that way as well, it beats Chill Out in trying to do the same thing with Chill Out with the extra mod. You can better go with an improvised piece. Now, of course, there is some discussion to be made of, you know, this is harder to craft and then you have to optimize it, so maybe better for newer players. But then Chill Out is a blue core piece, and getting actually crit damage to recore it to a red is actually severely quite the farm, because as well, you need to farm the hoarder. It is 4 items, and as we saw as well, once the cooler comes in, it'll be actually 5 items. So it's a 1 in 5 basically to get a Chill Out, and then it is a blue core item, and as blue core items have, they have, as all items have, they have a tendency to around 75% of the time to roll a minor stat, at least one of their minor stats, to be the same as their blue core. That does seem to also be the case with the Chill Out, with it coming mostly with a blue minor. So trying to farm this is actually, I would say, a lot harder than just farming the levels and just getting Watch Out and getting an improvised glove out of it, or an improvised other piece. You can never run out of brand bonuses because of improvised pieces, where you can put just 12 crit damage. And yeah, it does beat the Chill Out still, because you can just put that 12 crit damage there. If you want to lose the crit chance, because that's the other argument that could be made here, you could, yeah, just put weapon handling. That is still useful. Even to that, you would have weapon handling instead of this 5% total armor. Now let's have a deeper look at this calculation, because this is as well actually putting it at the best possible opportunity with coyotes coming from somewhere else. So let's say, you know, you're in a group setting and or in a countdown. This helps actually this reach above being 96%, because if it's trying to reach 60 by itself, it drops down a little bit more, because the Cheska Grupo just does it more efficiently. And yeah, this is just losing stats, and we can literally see that. It's the only difference between these two, as they're also going to 60 crit chance just because of that coyote, because they're in the 50s, is just you're losing 15 crit damage. That is the difference between the two, because you need that crit chance there anyway. You need the crit chance somewhere in that build to make up for the lost crit chance on strikers, especially because strikers is pretty crit starved. So yeah, you're basically just losing that brand bonus of Grupo, and you're gaining for that 5 total armor. I would take a Palisade piece over that and land on these same stats basically as the Gila, and then have 10% armor and kill. There is really no good way to make a red version of of the chill out work. It's kind of like 3-piecing Negotiator, which was very popular really early on, just because it gives crit chance and crit damage. But then as well, in that same way, if you actually think about how many stats you're losing, which is 3 minors to get the 3-piece bonus from a Negotiator, which was actually very popular to do early on. If you just take those stats and put them as extra minors, you can make up for it. You just get more stats out of brand bonuses and the minor stats. Here, just from the brand bonuses, we're just losing basically Grupo's brand bonus worth here as yeah, that's the brand bonus we're giving up for 5% total armor. Don't make red versions of the chill out. Let's go actually and scroll down a little bit and discuss yellow versions of the chill out. And the other place I see it popping up a lot, which is basically a bad idea, is putting the chill out into Eclipse builds or Church Drone builds as well. I saw a few to get more skill haste. In the Church Drone version, I'm doubly weirded out by it because generally I just don't put into Church Drone builds skill haste. Having all skill haste in a normal Empress variant of a drone build basically takes your turret to just under 10 seconds, your drone to just over 10 seconds. Without all of that skill haste, it is around 17 seconds for your turret and around 18 seconds for your drone. I would just take those times and take those 6 stats and just put crit chance there, or armor regen, or literally anything except skill haste. A few seconds more for all of that investment is not worth it. And then trying to do it with the chill out mask is doubly weird because here we'll basically take it into Eclipse. So the 2 pieces that we could, because we're going to put it up against an improvised piece, this could also just be a Hani U piece, which would just be 2% less skill haste basically. But if you're investing the time to get this anyway on a chill out, which actually I don't have. I'm faking it here. I just, we're just taking the stats and putting them up against each other because I would never keep this piece for this exact reason. So what we would have is then, yeah, the glove and the mask swapping out. So the mask would then become, of course, on the other version, the piece where the Eclipse piece goes, the 4th Eclipse piece, and then the glove changes. So if we take all of the stats of both of them and just tally them up, what we have on the chill out is then, yeah, we can have the skill tier. The skill tiers are of course all the same on all of them. So we have this status effect, and then this status effect, and this status effect. So they're tallying off against each other. So the status effect on these 2 is the same if you're just picking status effect there. But then let's count the skill haste. So here we have 1 skill haste from a mod, another skill haste from a mod. If we then go to this variant, what we have is then, 1 skill haste here and 2 skill haste with the improvised glove because it has a minor and then it has, of course, a mod slot for another skill haste mod. So here, again, we're getting that, what would be the brand bonus. Now, of course, the Eclipse pieces here, they're basically contributing to the same talent, so that's fine. So these 2 are competing about their brand bonus, basically. And in the case of the improvised, the brand bonus is its mod slot, basically. So here we're taking a 1 skill haste versus 5% total armor. So yeah, what we end up here on the top is that we have 2 statuses and 2 skill hastes. Here we have 3 skill haste and 2 statuses. So yeah, we have just 1 skill haste more. And what we're really trading that in for is this 5% total armor. This 5% total armor, as I would say, is completely meaningless for a Foam Eclipse running around in Legendary. Really isn't going to make a meaningful difference, not in the way that 1 more skill haste would. And that's also why I just take a jab at it here with 0%, 0 times useless stuff, because this is kind of useless to an Eclipse when you could have 1 more skill haste. Now, of course, if you could have this for free, I take it, anything you can take for free is fine, but it isn't free here. It is this versus 1 more skill haste. And of course, if you don't want to improvise, one Hana U piece would have a 10% skill haste as its brand bonus. So you would have 2 skill haste mods, and then you would have basically a 10 skill haste versus this the 5% total armor. This is the kind of thing that once you get a little bit deeper into the game, you should try to get good at, of just tallying up stats and how many you would have and wouldn't have, because that makes it a lot easier. I don't really need to do spreadsheet calculations or make this build and compare the cooldowns against each other or anything. We just tally up the stats against each other and see what lands higher. And yeah, this is the basis of opportunity cost. Going, what would be the better version? Because it turns out that if you just think about it for a second, that extra mod slot isn't worth it when you can get that extra mod slot somewhere else and still keep what in effect then becomes its brand bonus and not giving up towards this total armor, which is kind of meaningless. But then, yeah, that is kind of the nail into the red and into the yellow version. But there are actually blue versions of this that you can definitely use of the chill out, which is also nice because, yeah, it comes with a blue core, so you can just optimize that up and then put whatever stat you want next to it, making it a little bit more easier to find the ones that are actually useful. So let's go look at some of those. And yeah, let's actually discuss the positive sides of this item because it does have a few and it has a few uses. This being, for instance, one of them. This is actually a build that I quite enjoy for Countdown. It even showed up in there, of course, in the Countdown builds video. This will also, of course, will link the build pictures of the builds discussed here down below. We'll also go into the build picture for in a second so you can see the stats more clearly. But what it is at its core is crit chance and crit damages all around, with 3-piece Gila getting 2% armor regen here, 1-piece Bellstone getting 1% armor regen there, and the rest of it going into 2 improvised pieces for protection from elite. So what Chill Out then lets you do here with this protection from elites, which you can't of course get on a minor stats. So this is really the one place that you can kind of get this out of it, because also, for instance, for hazard protections and such, you could use it to get 2 mods of hazard protect or towards a specific hazard. But it is much easier to just hit a 100 hazard protection. So what that really only leaves is to have protection from elites be here in the stat. And what this really lets you do is actually just move 1 piece to the mask, basically, so you can have 2 Emperor or 2 protection from elites here, of course, and then you can have a different piece. Now, in this case, we're going with a 3rd-piece Gila, because the 3rd-piece Gila, of course, if we try to sneak it in, it could go into the backpack slot, but then the bells, if we wanted the Bellstone, that would go here. But this allows us to have this piece of Gila here without losing our 6 protection from elites mods. This is all with 12s, landing us on 72, and then survivalist is taking us to 80. So this is 80% hazard protected, and then together with that has 3% regen, and still has somewhat a decent crit chance, crit damages. Of course, doesn't have the reds to kind of back them up. Although here actually versus the build picture, we'll see in a second, I've put 2 more reds in here. I've taken this to be 4 blue instead of 6 blue as is in the build picture. And as, yeah, to eke out a little bit more damage. But then here, yeah, it's 50 crit chance, 117 crit damage is respectable enough. We have a Vanguard Galvanize, and yeah, the Scorpio is triggering Galvanize. We can trigger Vanguard with our shield, and this works out pretty well actually as just a Countdown support build. It isn't the greatest PFE, but it is a workable PFE definitely. Let's actually go to its build picture quickly. As this is 1.16 on the build collection, but of course will be linked down below as well. And yeah, as we saw, it is just all crit chances, crit damages, and then here we're just taking 1 crit damage, and that does land us on that 50. And I'm expecting basically this to be run in a group. It has buffs that really only work for groups, so in 4-player or outside of raids, basically Vanguard does not apply to yourself, so it's kind of just it would then be just an invulnerable shield, but I don't really need an invulnerable shield. I'm kind of tanky, and then also have 3% regen. And regen kind of starts becoming good at 3%, I would say. The way to look at regen as well, just to put that in here as well, is just in how many seconds would it take to go back to full armor. So in this case, it isn't so much about this number, number, but it is much more about what the percentage is of here. And then this is, of course, just 3%, just because we know from the brand bonuses. That means that if you have 1%, basically in 100 seconds, you go from empty armor to full. With 2%, you're already dropping that to 50 seconds. You're cutting it in half. With 3%, you're cutting this now down to 33 seconds. So yeah, you're getting diminishing returns, kind of in the effect of all things, basically, within division. But you have to kind of think of it like, I wouldn't be okay waiting a minute 40, which is what 100 seconds would be, to get all my armor back. 50 seconds is kind of long as well. 33 seconds, that's starting to become good, especially 25 seconds, 4%. In some setups, yeah, that's pretty good. 5%, 20 seconds. Now we're talking, you know, when you're really going into regen builds and especially hitting the 6%, you know, with memento stacked up fully as well. Now you're down to 16 seconds, and yeah, that is actually then a truly valuable stat. Of course, though, opportunity cost comes around the corner again and goes like, yeah, but now you're losing all your damage. Because yeah, this gives up damage, of course, for this regen and such. But this, for instance, was a really handy thing to have, for instance, against a recruiter fight where surviving was much more important than actually quickly killing him. This actually made that quite easy. So yeah, it definitely has its uses. And then here we're using it also, for instance, for its brand bonuses. Actually, in both these cases, I'll show. We'll be using it for its brand bonuses. So where we're getting the 3% regen. And then, yeah, the Gila makes sense. The use of the chill out makes sense to get those extra mod slots. And this build cannot really exist as is without the chill out, because if you had just a normal Gila piece here, we would be dropping one of the mods here. We couldn't really get that mod into anywhere else, because we would want it, if we wanted to keep the 3-piece Gila, or we would just go for 2% and leave out the Bellstone piece. But in all of those cases, it's kind of a diminished version of this build. And yeah, this version kind of works pretty well. Let's go look at the raid tank as well, where we choose chill out. And this is that other version. This is a raid tank made for specifically Iron Horse. This is the layout that now is the go-to for it, as long as you have the chill out mask for it. And yeah, this is one of the uses where chill out actually does work pretty well, because what we want from this build is it to be fully hazard protected, which we can reach pretty easily nowadays, especially with the use of Cavalier. This is one of the few places where we don't care, for instance, about damage at all. It is about you have one job. You have one job, and that is to survive and be hazard protected and deal with certain things. And that means that it is okay to invest into that. So normally using 2-piece of a gear set is highly discouraged. This is the one of the few places. This raid setup used to be done with 3-piece Eclipse for the same 30% hazard protection. Cavalier came in with its 2-piece having the 30% hazard protection. So nowadays we use that. And that's changed up actually this setup a little bit from ages past. And yeah, we still go as a tank, as this is actually a full tank. The other one was much more of a PFE build, where we were trying to go for high PFE, for instance, for countdown, and then still having damage. This thing does barely any damage, but it doesn't need to. It, as said earlier, it has one job. There are other people being damage dealers in the team. They have the job of doing damage, and they better be set up for that. This thing just needs to survive. Now, for that, what we do is try to get armor regen going and try to be tanky, and then hazard protected, of course. This build is hazard protected all the way to 100% against everything, so it is hazard immune. This makes it quite handy. Older versions, before trying to use 3-piece Eclipse or this version, yeah, they couldn't reach it, and what people would use is as well try to go demo to get the burn resist from there, put mods in. All of that is something you definitely shouldn't do nowadays. Even without this Gila mask, the chill out mask, you could just have a normal Gila mask here. You would lose one of these protection from elites, but that is fine, because that's the sacrifice then. If you don't have it, you just don't have it. But having one more protection from elite instead of a little bit more, because the other stat that would be used here is the stat that I've used here, which also isn't a really good pick. You generally don't want to use armor regen as the lone stat, especially when you have this high armor, because this is a fixed amount versus instead of a percentage. So if we could have a percentage here that's scaled with our armor amounts, that would make a little bit more sense. But yeah, we can't have that. Not outside of the Emperor's Guard, the Murakami piece, which used to actually be used in the other version, in the old Eclipse version. But in the Cavalier version, you have other bonuses that you can go for. You can get 3% out of here. You don't really want to have that Cavalier piece be anywhere like else to have the Murakami. Well, you could put it on the mask and then have the Murakami piece here, but all it would be displacing would be the Spellstone piece, because you get that same 1%. So why go around the long way? And there is really no other pick here. You could take a little bit of explosive resistance, but you might as well just have a little bit more armor regen. That's why that is there. The core of it is, though, to try to get that full hazard protection. And then we do take a little bit of protection from elite. And that does help. Protection from elites does help in there. A lot of things that will be shooting at you are elites. Having a little bit more reduction from them is kind of handy. Not enough to go survivalist, because especially what this opens up is to have a firewall here, and firewall, of course, has that 10% to any enemy that you are near to, and you should be near to the raid bosses for most of the fights. Meaning that you're giving that buff to everybody in your raid team, because that's also raid wide. That isn't that one is specifically titled allies and not your group, which means that it's not just your subgroup; it's the entire raid. Let's go to the build picture of this thing as we have it here. This is 2.16 on the build collection, but of course linked down below as well. And what it lands up on is having 48 protection from elites, and then together with that having all the armor that we would want, and especially what we want is this full hazard protection. And really what the chill out just gets you in here is, instead of one more armor regen, having one more PFE. And that one more PFE does make a little bit of a difference. But it is in here mostly because we're going three-piece Gila anyway, for the 2% regen we get from that. And of course, along the way, getting some health and that total armor actually makes a little bit of sense in this setup, because getting our total armor up, we are doing a percentage regen based off of it. So a higher number means also a higher regen. And that we see back here as well. We have 72k armor regen in total. And that's kind of nice. This thing can be kind of self-sufficient and deal with the raid bosses without much of healing unless something goes wrong, because you're just regenning continuously. And as long as you're mostly just getting hit by elite things, which most of the things in there anyway are, you'll be fine. This is the other use of the chill out, and this is somewhat of a minor one, because you could just replace this with a Gila piece, because it's not going for full PFE, because that's just not attainable here. We're going for hazard protection. This doesn't really help with that per se, but yeah, it is a stand-in piece, which allows us to have a little bit more PFE. So yeah, let's jump over to the conclusion. And indeed, to conclude this video, I just wanted to kind of ramble and kind of look at in depth towards this chill out as to why to not use it in certain ways. Basically, any red version, any blue or any yellow version really doesn't make sense. It really only makes sense if you're going blue anyway and kind of going for that armor regen. That 2% armor regen with the changes with Project Resolve was actually one of the better changes that they made, giving this 2%, giving 2-piece Golan 1.5% on its 2-piece. That makes it that you can go for these bonuses, and while you kind of are giving up some brand bonuses for it, especially on a setup like this, like the raid tank, or on a setup like the other one where we're going for some survivability on our end with 3% regen, it is actually a choice that is okay making. I wouldn't, of course, for instance, with the other one where we were having the PFE variant, that's not my first preferred PFE, especially for instance if I'm solo against rogues or something, but it will make do for those kind of cases. That one is much more made, for instance, yeah, for countdown. This one is much more made for raids, and that's where they shine. And where you can make the chill out shine alongside of it, because that's really the only places where you can use them. Trying to use it for anything that isn't per se making use of basically only protection from elites, honestly, is just a waste. And also a waste of your time, because it is a hard item to get, especially if you're going for a crit damage one. I just don't want people to kind of waste their time, as I feel a lot of creators have made a lot of content recently, as a lot of people have been sending me DMs with, hey, does this make sense? And hey, does this make sense? And the answer has been several times in a row, no. No, a crit damage, trying to make a crit damage version in Striker doesn't make sense. Trying to put it into a Turdrome build to get more skill haste, just the skill haste alone doesn't make sense, and neither does the Eclipse version that I saw a few times as well from a few videos. Doesn't make sense. Trying to go for high crit damages and such as well does not make sense, because one of the things that I saw several times with it is that people were trying to get like insanely high crit damages or something, and they put like really like I've 200 plus crit damages on their video. Generally as well, just as a general tip, if anybody ever goes 200 plus crit damage on a build and puts that on top of their video, my response to that isn't, ooh, that is some high crit damage. My response is, oh, they're doing something wrong. Because you can get really high crit damage. We'll end up with this thing. This is a very silly build. This no longer is in my collection. I just made it as a joke. And yeah, we're just trying to kind of get really high numbers with crit. This is still actually at the bottom of the collection if you want it. I'll link it down as there as well, which is X06. And the whole thing why I made this is just to name this build CH Big D. It turns out that it's not that big of a D. It is high on the damage of crit damage, but isn't high on crit on actual damage. Because Fox's Prayer exists, because Contractors exists, because putting stats into other things than crit damage exists. Just a high crit damage number, especially this high, at the cost of Fox's Prayer, Contractors, or other choices you could make, is the definition of doing the opportunity cost wrong. You have the choices that are better than this, and you shouldn't. And yeah, and same holds true, for instance, here, trying to get more crit damage out of this, because also you cannot make a crit damage variant with this that would be higher than with improvised. That's why also on that build, I wasn't using the chill out to reach the highest crit damages. I was using improvised pieces, which actually, for the intent of reaching the highest crit damage, actually makes sense. The chill out does not. So yeah, we'll leave that there. We've bashed this thing into the ground, but also praised it for the things that it can do. As yeah, it isn't useless, definitely. It is just minorly useful for just only a few things. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. For my next video, we'll actually be going into the video I said last time that we were going into, but I wanted to get this in between. And that is on improving yourself, the part 1 on that, which is going to go over a bunch of things like positioning and trying to how to aim and how to kind of keep awareness and such. That'll be actually a 3-parter in total in the end. After the first part, though, we'll go into a build showcase, as we'll go into some joke builds, and I'm kind of looking forward to that, as we'll go over some 511 builds, some improvised builds, full improvised, and some purple builds again, as also some new tricks exist for purple builds. So yeah, I hope you join me for those. And if you did enjoy this video, if you can, please do all of the algorithm things down below. It does help out, so I'll just chill and actually say it. Yeah, as always, have a good night.